My name is Paul Nick, and the day this story began felt completely normal. I was driving home from work when my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. I wish I hadn't, because that call changed everything. Before I tell you how I got my revenge, hit that like button and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. Mr. Nick, a man said. His voice shook a little. This is Evan, your wedding photographer. I need to talk to you. It's important. At first, I thought he wanted more money or that there was a problem with the photos. I laughed and said, "Is something wrong with the album?" There was a long pause. "No," he said quietly. "But something is wrong in the photos." I didn't understand. Pictures can't be wrong. They just show what happened. But Evan sounded scared, like he had seen something he wished he hadn't. "I found something while editing," he said. "Something disturbing. You need to come to my studio. And, please come alone." My skin prickled. Why would a photographer tell me to come alone? Why would he sound nervous about simple wedding pictures? "Can't you just tell me now?" I asked. "I'd rather show you in person," he said. "Trust me. You'll want to see this." That was the moment my life quietly began to fall apart. I drove home after the call, trying not to think about it too much. Maybe Evan was just overreacting. Maybe it was nothing. But deep down, I felt a small knot forming in my stomach. When I walked into the house, Anna, my wife, was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone. She didn't even look up. "You're late," she said. "Dinner's cold." That was normal for her. She wasn't unkind, but she wasn't warm either. Not anymore. After the wedding, something in her changed. She used to touch my arm when she talked, smile when I walked into the room, or kiss my cheek just because. Now she barely noticed me. Her daughter, Lily, was in the kitchen. She tossed her long hair and gave me a quick, fake smile. "Hey, Paul," she said, but her eyes were on her phone too. She used to be sweet when we first met. Now she mostly talked about clothes, new phones, and her boyfriend Mason, a guy who seemed allergic to work. I sat at the table and tried to eat my cold dinner, but my mind kept drifting back to the call. Something disturbing. In my wedding photos? What could possibly be disturbing about the happiest day of my life? Over the next few days, things at home felt even stranger than usual. Maybe it was just the photographer's call still stuck in my head, but Anna and Lily seemed different, more secretive than ever. One evening, I came home earlier than expected. As I opened the door, I heard Anna and Lily talking in low voices in the living room. "He can't find out," Lily whispered. "I know," Anna said quickly. "Just keep quiet. He's too trusting anyway." My hand froze on the doorknob. Were they talking about me? I stepped inside, and the conversation stopped instantly. Anna grabbed her phone. Lily pretended she was looking at a magazine, even though it was upside down. "You're early," Anna said with a stiff smile. "Traffic was light," I replied, trying to sound normal. "What were you two talking about?" "Nothing," Lily said too fast. "Just girl stuff." Girl stuff didn't usually require whispering and secret glances. Later that night, I heard Lily's boyfriend, Mason, creeping into the house. Anna told me he only visited sometimes, but lately it felt like he lived with us. The lights flicked on after midnight, and I heard them laughing in the kitchen, laughing at something they wouldn't tell me. Something was definitely wrong. A few days later, I was paying bills at the kitchen table when I noticed something strange. Our bank balance was lower than it should have been. Much lower. I checked the numbers again, thinking I made a mistake, but the math didn't lie. Almost $1,200 was gone. When Anna walked into the room, I tried to stay calm. "Hey," I said, "do you know anything about these charges? They weren't here last month." She didn't even look at the screen. "It's probably just normal stuff. Groceries." "Gus, you worry too much." "But groceries don't cost $1,200 unless you're feeding an army." Then I saw another withdrawal, $400 in cash, taken out late at night. I knew it wasn't me. "Anna," I said, "someone is pulling out money. Can we talk about it?" She rolled her eyes. "Paul, stop acting like a detective. I told you, it's normal." But it wasn't normal. Not even close. Later that night, as I walked past Lily's room, I heard her talking to Mason. "He won't notice," she said. "He never does." My stomach tightened. I wanted to believe none of this was real. But the missing money, the whispers, the late-night visits. Every day, something else felt wrong. I couldn't stop thinking about Evan's call. "Something in those photos was disturbing," he said. "I needed to see them in person." I decided it was time. The next morning, I drove downtown. The streets of Phoenix were busy, but my mind was elsewhere. Every turn, every traffic light felt slower than usual. Evan's studio was in a small warehouse in the Arts District. A brass plaque read, "Evan Harper Photography." I parked across the street and sat for a moment, trying to calm myself. When I entered, the smell of coffee and printer ink hit me. Evan looked nervous, fidgeting with his camera strap. "Paul," he said, "thank you for coming. I didn't want to call you if it wasn't important. What I'm about to show you, it's serious." I nodded. My stomach tightened. "Show me," I said. He led me to a small room with a large monitor. "These are your wedding photos," he said. I was editing and noticed something unusual. "Look closely at this series, 2 hours before your ceremony." The screen filled with images. And there it was. My son-in-law, Samuel, kissing another woman. My hand clenched into a fist. My wedding was a lie. I stared at the screen. Samuel, my son-in-law, kissing another woman 2 hours before marrying my daughter, Jacqueline. My chest felt tight. My wedding, the $50,000 I spent, the smiles, the vows, all a lie. Evan pointed to the timestamps. "See this? All of these are 2 hours before the ceremony. GPS shows the location. Metadata proves it's real." I didn't want to believe it either, Paul. I took a step back. My mind raced. Why would Samuel do this? Did Jacqueline know? Was this all planned? "Do you know who she is?" I asked, my voice shaking. "No," Evan said. "She wasn't on the guest list. I've never seen her before. But it's serious. You need to act carefully." Carefully. That word stuck in my mind. I left the studio with a heavy heart. On the drive home, every memory of the wedding, laughter, dancing, the ceremony, twisted into something bitter. And then I realized something else. My other daughter, Lily, and her boyfriend, Mason, they were taking advantage of me too. The whispers, the money missing, the way they acted at home. It was clear now. I had been betrayed by my family, and it was time to take action. Revenge wasn't just an idea anymore. It was a plan. That night, I sat alone in my office. The flash drive Evan had given me burned a hole in my pocket. Every photo, every timestamp, every secret, proof of Samuel's betrayal. And now, I realized my home wasn't safe either. Lily and Mason were taking advantage of me, acting like I was just their ATM. I poured coffee, opened my notebook, and began writing. Step by step. Every move, every lie, every dollar. I couldn't confront them yet. If I did, they would slip away, destroy evidence, and laugh in my face. No, I needed a plan. I needed control. First, protect my assets. My house, my savings, my business, they had to be untouchable. Second, gather evidence of everyone's wrongdoing. Samuel, Lily, Mason, Jacqueline, everyone who betrayed me. Third, make my move. When the time was right, they would feel the weight of their actions. I wrote down timelines, amounts of money taken, photographs, conversations I had overheard. Every detail mattered. By the time the clock struck midnight, I leaned back in my chair. I felt something I hadn't in years. Power. I was no longer just a father. I was a man ready to take revenge, calculated and precise. The next day, I sat on my couch with a flash drive plugged into my laptop. I needed to see everything myself, not just the few photos Evan showed me. If I was going to bring people down, I needed all the truth. I opened the folder labeled Pre-Ceremony, Unsorted. My heart began to pound. There were dozens of photos. Some were harmless, guests getting ready, decorations being set up, the wedding party laughing. But then I reached a set that made my skin crawl. There was Samuel, standing behind the reception hall, holding hands with the same woman he kissed. Her face was clearer in these shots, dark hair, bright smile, and eyes that looked way too comfortable staring into his. In one picture, she fixed Samuel's tie. In another, he held her waist. And in the last one, they were hugging, too tightly to be just friends. I felt heat rise in my chest. That was supposed to be my daughter's husband. He was supposed to honor her, love her, be faithful. Instead, he was sneaking around before the wedding even started. I clicked through more photos. My breath caught when I spotted something else, someone familiar in the background. Mason. Lily's boyfriend. What was he doing there with them? Something bigger was going on, and I was getting closer to the truth. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe now. Also let me know where you are watching from in the comments section. That evening, I sat in my kitchen, staring at the quiet house. Lily and Mason had been acting normal all day, but I knew better. Every late-night phone call, every unexplained expense, every whisper behind closed doors, it all made sense now. They weren't just careless, they were manipulating me. I thought about the missing money, the $1,200 withdrawals, the $400 cash taken from my account. Every cent traced back to them. I had been blind. I walked through the house, room by room. Empty bedrooms, scattered laundry, half-finished drinks on tables, signs of their comfort, of their assumption that they owned this place. They had been living here for 4 years rent-free, taking, and they thought I wouldn't notice. I made a mental note of every detail: Lily's insistence on a new car, Mason's loud presence in the living room, the way they coordinated their plans behind my back. No more. I picked up my phone and started typing notes, creating a timeline of their deception. The betrayal wasn't just Samuel's. It was a family operation. Tomorrow, I would start my first move. Not with anger. Not with shouting. But with precision. Revenge wasn't just an idea. It was my duty. The next morning, I returned to the photos. This time, I looked deeper. I right-clicked each picture and checked the metadata, the hidden information inside every digital image. Evan had shown me a few examples, but now I wanted every detail. And that's when everything snapped into place. All the suspicious photos, Samuel with the mystery woman, Mason standing in the background, even Lily near the parking lot, they all had the same timestamp. They were taken within 15 minutes of each other, just before the ceremony. But the part that chilled me was the GPS location. The photos weren't taken near the wedding hall. They were taken behind a small building across the street, a motel. My hands froze on the mouse. A motel. On my daughter's wedding day. While guests arrived. While I walked around greeting family. While my daughter got dressed and smiled in the mirror. I zoomed in on one picture. Mason stood by the motel door, holding an envelope. In another, he handed it to Samuel. And in the corner of one blurry shot, Lily stood there, watching. My heart sank. This wasn't random. This wasn't a mistake. This was planned. And now I had proof. By late morning, I had copied the entire flash drive onto my laptop. I couldn't risk losing anything. Every photo, every file, every piece of metadata had to be secured. I started organizing the evidence. Samuel's affair, the motel rendezvous, Mason passing envelopes, Lily watching, all in chronological order. Every detail mattered. Then I found something I hadn't noticed before, a folder labeled Receipts and Transfers. Curious, I opened it. My stomach turned. Bank receipts, cash withdrawals, and transfers, hundreds of dollars moving between Samuel, Mason, and Lily's accounts. Some were from my wedding cash gifts, some from money I had lent them over the years. Every cent traced, every lie exposed. It wasn't just infidelity. It was financial betrayal, a coordinated effort to exploit me. I leaned back in my chair and rubbed my eyes. 4 years, and I had let them treat my home like a playground, my money like it was theirs. Not anymore. I closed the laptop and made a plan. First, secure my assets. Second, confront them legally, quietly, without warning. Third, let the law do the work while I stayed one step ahead. Revenge wasn't about anger anymore, It was strategy. That evening, I made my first move. I couldn't wait any longer. Lily and Mason were sprawled on the couch, laughing at some nonsense on TV, assuming the night was theirs. I walked calmly into the living room, holding a small envelope. "What's this?" Lily asked, tilting her head. I smiled, slowly. "Consider it an invitation." I handed each of them an envelope. Mason opened his first. His face went pale almost immediately. Lily tore hers open and froze. Inside were eviction notices. 30 days. No exceptions. No negotiation. Every detail followed Arizona property law. Every step covered, legal, airtight. Their mouths opened and closed. Words stumbled out. "You can't do this," Mason barked. "This is my home." Lily's voice trembled. I stayed calm. "Your home?" "I don't think so. You've lived here for 4 years without paying rent. You treat my house like it's yours. This stops now." For the first time in years, I felt control. Not fear. Not anger. Control. They didn't realize it yet, but the game had changed. The house wasn't theirs. The power wasn't theirs. And for the first time, I felt the sweet weight of revenge beginning. After handing them the eviction notices, I retreated to my office. The sound of their angry whispers and stomping feet faded behind the closed door. For the first time in years, I could think clearly. I opened my notebook and wrote, "Step 1, secure the house. Step 2, protect assets. Step 3, expose the truth." I had the flash drive with all the photos. I had proof of Samuel's affair and the financial manipulation. I had the timeline of their lies. Everything I needed was right in my hands. But this wasn't just about throwing them out. It was about making sure they couldn't hurt me again. I couldn't let Samuel, Mason, or Lily walk away with my money, or my trust. I made calls to a lawyer friend, scheduled a consultation for estate protection, and started drafting letters to the bank. Every move had to be precise. Revenge wasn't a single act. It was a series of calculated strikes. And I intended to finish this, step by step, until the last one realized they had underestimated me. I looked out the window at the calm desert night. The house was mine again, at least for now. And tomorrow, the next piece of their scheme would fall. The following morning, I drove to the bank. The sun was barely up, and the parking lot was almost empty. Good. I wanted privacy. I wanted answers. Inside, I met with a manager I had known for years, a quiet man named Mr. Harris. He always remembered faces and never forgot a number. "Paul," he said, shaking my hand, "you look troubled." "I need to review some transfers," I told him. Quietly. He nodded and led me to a small office. I handed him the printed receipts from the flash drive, withdrawals, transfers, and deposits linked to Lily and Mason's accounts. His eyebrows shot up. "These are significant, and most of them were made from your joint backup card." My stomach tightened. I never gave them permission. He typed quickly, checking system logs. After a minute, he looked up, serious. "It seems the card information was used on your home Wi-Fi. Same device. Same address. So they'd been stealing from me inside my own house." I asked him to freeze several accounts and remove all backup access. He completed it without a word, stamping each form. When I left the bank, the morning felt cooler, sharper. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was theft. And now I had proof to bring them all down. When I returned home from the bank, the house was strangely quiet. Then I heard footsteps rushing down the hallway. Lily appeared, holding her phone with shaking hands. "Dad, something's wrong with my account," she said, her voice tight with panic. "It's frozen. All my money is gone." I kept my face calm. "Is that so?" She stared at me, searching my expression. "Did you do something?" I shrugged. "Why would I? It's your account." She paced across the living room, breathing fast. "I can't pay my car bill, Mason can't access anything, and the bank won't tell us why." Mason stormed in next, angry as usual. "Paul, this is illegal. You can't just—" "I froze my accounts," I corrected. Anything connected to my cards, my name, or my house is now locked until further notice." Lily's eyes widened. She understood exactly what that meant. You think we stole from you," she whispered. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "I don't think, Lily. I know." Silence filled the room. Heavy, sharp, undeniable. For the first time they saw it, the shift in power. The father they took advantage of was gone, and the man standing in front of them was just getting started. That afternoon, I sat on the edge of my bed and pulled out the photo I kept returning to, the one where Mason stood beside the motel door, holding an envelope. The image bothered me more than the others. It wasn't just a random shot. It looked like a transaction. What was in that envelope? Why was Mason handing it to Samuel on my daughter's wedding day? And why did Lily watch from the side like she already knew? I zoomed in closer. The envelope had a small, dark stamp on the corner, one I recognized from years ago. It was the logo of a private loan company. A shady one. A company that preyed on desperate people. My stomach tightened. I remembered a moment months earlier when Lily had asked for help with a small debt. I paid it off without question. Now I wondered if that was only the tip of something deeper. Something darker. Was Mason paying Samuel? Was Samuel paying Mason? Or were they working together for some other reason? Every possibility made my heartbeat heavier. This wasn't just betrayal. It was a business arrangement, happening behind my back. I closed the laptop. Tomorrow, I would find out the truth behind that envelope, even if I had to drag it out of every last one of them. I spent the next morning at my desk, the motel photo still open on the screen. I kept staring at the envelope, the stamp, the faces. Something about all of it connected, but the picture wasn't fully clear yet. So I opened the rest of the files. In a hidden folder near the bottom, I found more photos Evan hadn't shown me. These weren't from the wedding day, they were from weeks before. Pictures of Samuel meeting Mason in parking lots. Pictures of Lily arguing with Samuel behind a grocery store. And always, an envelope. The same type. The same stamp. The same loan company. My hands tightened around the mouse. This wasn't one mistake. This was a pattern. I pulled out my notebook and wrote down everything I saw. Samuel meeting Mason multiple times. Lily present at more than one meeting. Money being exchanged in every photo. The same loan company logo appearing again and again. The truth hit me hard. They were all involved in something together months before the wedding. A debt. A scam. A plan to drain my savings. Whatever it was, I wasn't just dealing with betrayal. I was dealing with a conspiracy. And now, I finally had enough clues to start pulling their story apart. Just as I finished writing down my notes, my phone buzzed. It was Evan, the photographer. I wasn't expecting to hear from him again so soon. "Paul," he said quietly, "I found something else." My stomach clenched. "What is it?" "It's not a photo," he continued. "It's a video. A short clip my camera recorded automatically before the ceremony. I didn't notice it earlier because it was stored under a different file type." My pulse quickened. "What's in the video?" There was a pause, too long. "You need to see it for yourself. But I should warn you, this goes deeper than cheating." I swallowed, trying to steady my voice. "Send it." A few seconds later, a file appeared in my inbox. Evan spoke again before hanging up. "Paul, whatever they were planning, you were the target. Just be careful." Target. The word echoed in my head. I downloaded the video but didn't play it yet. I sat back in my chair, staring at the file name, IMG_4027_clip. It felt like a door I wasn't sure I wanted to open, but I knew I had to. If Evan was right, this video might be the missing piece that tied everything together. And possibly, the proof that would break them all. I clicked play. The screen shook for a moment, then steadied. The camera had been resting somewhere low, maybe on a table or tripod. The video showed the side of the motel, the same one from the photos. The sound was faint, but the voices were clear enough. Samuel stepped into frame first, pacing. He looked nervous, checking over his shoulder again and again. Then Mason appeared, holding the same envelope I had seen in the pictures. "Is this all of it?" Samuel asked. "It's what we agreed on," Mason replied. "Once the wedding's over, you'll have access to his accounts." Lily said he never checks anything. My heart stopped. Samuel nodded. "Good. I'll play the part. Give it a month, maybe 2. Then we start shifting the money slowly." Lily's voice entered the clip next. She walked into view, her arms crossed. "Just don't mess this up. He's old-fashioned. He trusts easily. That's why this will work." I felt sick. They weren't just cheating. They weren't just lying. They were planning to drain my finances, together. The video ended with the 3 of them walking toward the motel door, still talking about the plan. I sat frozen. My daughter, her husband, her boyfriend, all working against me. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was war. I closed my laptop slowly and leaned back. The room was quiet, but my mind raced. They thought they were smart, but they hadn't counted on me seeing the photos, the envelopes, and now the video. I stood and walked to the window, staring out at the neighborhood. Calm on the surface, chaos inside. I needed a plan. A real plan. First, control. I couldn't let them access anything else. Bank calls, account freezes, locks, everything. Every dollar tied to my name, my house, my business, off limits. Second, evidence. Evan's photos and video were solid, but I needed more. Receipts, messages, anything showing the conspiracy. Every bit would make them vulnerable. Third, timing. I couldn't act too early. I had to wait until their confidence peaked. Let them think I was still naive, still the man they had always manipulated. And finally, a shock. Something to remind them who really held the power. Something permanent. I opened my notebook and started writing. Step 1, lock accounts. Step 2, gather evidence. Step 3, prepare eviction notices. Step 4, establish trust. Step 5, execute. A quiet smile formed. They thought they had me cornered. They didn't. Not even close. That evening, just before sunset, I heard a knock on my office door. Not a gentle one, 3 loud, angry bangs. Mason. I didn't bother looking up. "Come in." He marched inside, face red, fists clenched. "We need to talk," he growled. I closed my notebook calmly. "About what?" "You know what," he snapped. "Our accounts are frozen. Our money's gone. And Lily says you're acting strange." I almost laughed. Strange. If only he knew. Mason stepped closer. "Listen, Paul. You can't do this. Lily depends on you. I depend on you. You're ruining everything." There it was, the truth hidden behind his fake confidence. Depend on me. They had built their entire plan on the idea that I would never fight back. That I would always be the soft, forgiving man they could drain dry. I looked him straight in the eyes. "You and Lily made choices. Now you get the results of those choices." He froze, confused by my calm. Then his phone buzzed. He looked down, and his face went pale. "What did you do?" he whispered. But I didn't answer. I just let the silence speak for me. For the first time since he'd met me, Mason realized he wasn't the predator. He was the prey. Mason backed out of my office without another word, clutching his phone like it was a lifeline. I heard his footsteps pounding down the hall, then Lily's voice rising in panic. "What happened? What did he say?" she demanded. "I don't know," Mason snapped. "But something's wrong. Look at this." I couldn't see them, but I could imagine their faces, fear slowly replacing anger. Then came a silence, followed by Lily's shaky voice. "We need to call Samuel. Now." Samuel. Even after everything, they still believed he would save them. They had no idea I had already positioned every piece on the board. Every account frozen. Every file copied. Every lie documented. I quietly stepped closer to the door and listened. Lily whispered, "He said he'd handle it. He promised." Mason scoffed. "Yeah. Well, He hasn't called back in hours. What if he bailed? What if he ran with the money we gave him? The tension in their voices told me everything. Their alliance, so confident in the video, so united in their plan, was starting to fall apart. They didn't trust each other. They didn't trust Samuel. And now, for the first time, they didn't trust themselves. I returned to my desk, feeling a calm satisfaction. Cracks had formed. And soon, their entire scheme would collapse. By morning, I had a full plan. They thought they were in control. They thought I was still the same man who had given, trusted, and forgiven too easily. They were wrong. First, the accounts remained frozen. Every transfer blocked. Every withdrawal monitored. Money they assumed was theirs, locked. Next, the eviction notices. I left copies in plain sight, but I didn't confront them yet. Let them stew in confusion. Let them imagine I was unaware. Then, the flash drive. Evidence of the affair, the conspiracies, their secret plans. It sat on my desk like a loaded gun. Not shared yet. Not revealed yet. I would wait for the perfect moment. Finally, the trust. I had hired Mackenzie to transfer all assets into a professional, irrevocable trust. They wouldn't touch a dime. Not even by mistake. I reviewed my notes one last time. Freeze. Wait. Observe. Strike. Protect. A quiet knock interrupted my thoughts. Wendy appeared in the doorway, pretending innocence. "Dad, do you have a minute?" I smiled, cold and calm. Of course. She had no idea. The trap was set. And soon, very soon, they would step right into it. Evening came, and I knew they would test me. Wendy and Mason walked into the living room, confidence painted on their faces. Lily followed, the picture of innocence. I didn't rise. I didn't greet them. I just sat, hands folded on the desk, eyes steady. Silence filled the room, heavy and uncomfortable. "Dad, we just want to talk," Lily began, voice sweet but calculating. "Yes," Mason added, "we can fix this. Please, just hear us out." I leaned forward slowly, letting my gaze rest on each of them. "Hear you out about what?" I asked. "About stealing. About lying. About turning my house and life into your playground." They flinched. A twitch here, a gulp there. They hadn't expected me to speak like this. I stood, calm, deliberate. "You've had every chance, every trust, every dollar, every warning, and you chose greed, deception, and disrespect." Lily's face fell. Mason's jaw tightened. I reached into my desk drawer and held up the flash drive. "Everything is documented. Every lie, every plan, every betrayal. You step out of line again, it all goes public." The room went silent. For the first time, they saw the man they thought they knew. The predator had become the predator's nightmare. Morning came, bright and clear. I watched from my office window as Wendy, Mason, and Lily moved quietly around the house. Fear had replaced arrogance. Confidence had turned to caution. The eviction notices remained on the table. The accounts stayed frozen. The flash drive rested in my pocket, a silent reminder of the power I now held. I called Mackenzie. "Everything is in motion. Trusts, accounts, legal protections. No surprises, no loopholes." "Understood," he replied. "They won't be able to touch anything." I felt a strange satisfaction, a calm, deep certainty. I wasn't just protecting my assets. I was reclaiming respect, control, and dignity. Wendy peeked into my office. "Dad, we can talk, right?" I smiled, cold but fair. "We can. On my terms." Mason and Lily lingered outside, watching, hesitant, unsure. They had learned what it meant to underestimate me. I turned back to the desk, organized my notes, and took a deep breath. The war was over. Not through violence, not through anger, but through planning, patience, and precision. I was no longer a victim. I was in control. And those who thought they could take from me had finally learned the cost. The house was mine, my rules were firm, and my legacy protected. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more powerful narratives, and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what part hit you the hardest. Thanks for watching.